We are about to start in less than 30 seconds. If you're here and waiting, please introduce yourself in the comments. All right. Hello, everybody. I am Kavita Agrawal, and in today's Let's Get Technical series, I have found two good stock ideas which we will get into detailed discussion of. These two stock ideas are first MCX and the second is ATUL Limited. Now on technical charts, there are certain very good indications which are telling us that something is brewing there and whether or not we should take position. And if we should take position, what should be the levels that we need to look out for in terms of buying range, in terms of stop loss, in terms of target. I'm going to be telling you everything in this session. Not only that, I will also cover the specific indicators and the behavior of the indicators, which is telling me that some bullish momentum might be building up in the stocks in the time to come. Now, before we begin with the analysis, I also want to show you something which I had shared with members or my viewers few months ago. That was the stock idea Zydus Life. So quickly, let's take a look at the chart of Zydus Life and see how it has done 6 to 9 months down the line. So now on the screen, you can see the stock idea Zydus Life, right? Let me just type it out on the screen. Now this stock idea I had shared with members right here where you can see this white pin. Now there were a lot of technical reasons for that, and all of those technical reasons have been shared in this technical analysis video, which was incidentally also the first Let's Get Technical series video I had posted on my YouTube channel, and this was posted 9 months ago. Now as you can see on the chart, in 9 months this stock idea has rallied massively and is very close to the target of 552, which I believe is going to be achieved in the next few weeks because the pharma sector has come into positive momentum. Now positive momentum of the pharma sector is also nothing new for the members and viewers of EXP-Invest, because I have been talking about the reversal in pharma sector since quite a while now. So if you want to check out this video of Zydus Life that I just showed you, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to paste the link in the chat and you can take a look at that from there. So with this in mind, let's move towards the stocks which I have picked out for you. First, we will do the analysis of MCX. Now, if you watched my previous videos, you probably already know that I love starting my analysis from the broadest view possible. So I start with the monthly charts. The purpose is to basically identify the broad trend which the stock is in and use the extreme points to draw out the trend lines. Now, a lot of people have the tendency of drawing trend lines with any 2-3 points that they find on the chart, but that's probably not a very good idea, because the name itself suggests that, we're drawing lines along the trend of the stock. So it makes, and we've also always heard in technical analysis that trend is your friend. So when you're doing analysis of a stock, you should always try to trade it in the direction of the largest trend. This is also the concept of eclipsing. Basically, you want the largest time frame, the medium time frame, and the shortest time frame to eclipse. Technically, there are many different time frames which you can use But the Dow theory suggests that there are three main time frames. Now, if you look at the Elliott waves, you can draw waves in around 7 to 8 different levels. But then when you try to get into the details, there is no limit to how small you can go. There are people who also use tick by tick price data, but for any general investor, it's enough to use these three primary trends. So now that I have drawn the first level of trend lines on the MCX chart, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move one time frame lower, which is weekly, and see if there are any price points that I can cover up using the weekly time frame. While I do this, my attention is not at all going to the most recent price action, because I don't want the recent price level to create a bias in my analysis. So with that, let's now move on to one time frame lower still, that is the daily time frame. Now we can see all the major price points have been covered. So what is next? There is another trend line, there is another line actually which is really jumping out at us, and this is this particular trend line. If we join these two recent lows, we can see that incidentally it is also going and hitting the previous extreme move noticed in MCX almost exactly, right? Almost at the low. Now this is a good signal. So we are going to let that trend line be on the chart. And that trend line is clearly a lot more accelerated. So for a little bit better viewing, we are also going to clone this set of trend line. All right. So you might also be aware that I am predominantly a swing trader, and for swing trading, I mostly tend to use time frames of 75 minutes and 15 minutes, right? For my entries, I tend to use the 3-minute time frame so that I can get my entries as close to the low as possible. And for my exits, I tend to use trend lines a lot. So here, as you can see, the last time the price of MCX tried to go up, it faced a strong resistance right at the trend line here at the level of approximately 1700. So what should we expect now? See, first of all, let's move back to the time frame of daily. Now here we can see that a base was formed around the level of 1150, and near this base the RSI gave a strong positive divergence on the daily time frame. Now this itself was an indication that a big uptrend might be coming. Another thing you can also notice is that the volume on this particular candle was extremely high, and just before this candle formation, we can see that the 200 EMA was also breached on the daily chart with the formation of a doji, right? So after this breakout, we experienced very strong volume, which means that this is here to stay. So let's make this our new base. All right. Now, since this is our new base, we can see that after the price hit the resistance here with a island formation kind of pattern right here, big pillar and then small body of consolidation, we can see that the price came back down exactly to retest this very base that it had formed. So this basically the entire purpose of this analysis is that with the use of this accelerated trend line which has been drawn and the formation of the base here near the level of 1150, it seems like the correction which lasted around 45-46% is now come to an end, and MCX has started to go up, and the underlying trend of MCX is positive irrespective of which set of trend lines you're looking at, the steeper sloping or the lower sloping trend line. Now since this is an uptrending stock and the positive momentum has set in and the RSI has shown positive range shift, we can look for opportunities for a new entry. Now the last point that I just mentioned about RSI range shift, you might be wondering what that is. So it is very simple to spot an RSI range shift. You can see that when Okay, for RSI range shift, let's go to a lower time frame. So now on the 75-minute time frame, you can see that the price after it peaked out here, since it started making the low, it started breaching the level of 30. So let me just, yeah, okay. So since it started, basically this is the point where it, okay, let me actually, you know what, let me just broaden it a lot so that you can still see the price. So we're talking about range shift. So you can see that when it started to fall from this peak here, the first fall that we got, RSI respected the level of 30 really well. Another thing about RSI is that I don't use the standard 14 period RSI. I prefer to use the 25 period RSI on my 75-minute charts. Reason for using 75 minutes 25 period RSI is very simple. 75 into 5 is basically 375, which is 1 day candle. So since 75 is the fifth, is, you know, 1 day candle divided into 5 parts, I want to take a single candle look at one entire previous day's price activity within my RSI to make my decision. So each and every RSI candle is formed taking into consideration the entire 375 minutes preceding that very candle. So it gives a very good view, especially when you're trying to swing trade in the market. So that being said, here you can see that when the lower high was formed, lower high is the textbook definition of the end of a bull trend. When that was formed and when a correction came, you can see it broke the level of 30. It broke the level of 30 after that every single time that the price came lower from any kind of high. Correct? But now what has happened? What happened here is that on the 5th of August 2022, there have not been a lot of breaches at the level of 30. You can see there was this one breach right here, but then along with that, we also see a positive divergence on the chart, which gave result to a short rally immediately. But since the entire RSI has given a range shift, the underlying trend here is clearly bullish. So I wouldn't expect this low or this base that we have identified at 1354 to be breached anytime soon. Now that being said, what would be a stop loss from the current market price of 1453? Right now it is not the right time to enter in this immediately. You'll have to take a bit of a better idea here, but personally I am doing a pyramid accumulation scheme here. So what that basically means, I've now switched to my personal layout, which is, as you can see, a lot more messier and difficult to deal with. So I have started this pyramid accumulation scheme where I bought like 10 stocks yesterday and in my clients accounts, and now as this moves lower and lower all the way to, you know, where my stop loss lies, which is 1365, I'm going to keep accumulating this stock. So 1365 is where I want to exit the stock. But where will my trigger be? My trigger usually is much lower than my actual exit price. So what do I mean by that? If you've seen in if you've seen in Zerodha, let me just quickly show you if possible. Let me see if I can drag the window out. Okay, I cannot do that. All right. Okay, let's try with this. All right, so for instance, here you can see the GTT window for MCX. Now, if I want to set my OCO for this particular stock, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on sell and I'm going to click on OCO. Now, whatever quantity I have, the total quantity for which I'm creating the pyramiding scheme, say I want to buy a total of 100 quantities just for instance, then I'm going to set a stop loss and target for 100 quantities each. or rather what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my stop loss at 100 fixed, but I'm going to change the quantity for the target every time the new step of the ladder gets executed. So for instance, I told you right now that I have bought only 10 stocks. So if my target price comes while I've allocated only 10 stocks to my holdings, I want my target to be booked, I want my profit to be booked, right? So the idea here is that, like I told you, I want to exit at 1353. So, and I want my stop loss order to go in my order book if the price comes at 13446. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set the trigger price at 1346, and I'm going to enter my execution price as 1354. So what this does is that when the price is coming down, right, if the price comes down and it starts executing the ladder purchases that I've done, and like I told, I bought 10 stocks here, so I'm going to buy say 12 stocks here, I'm going to buy 15 stocks here, I'm going to buy another 20 here, okay, and say I'm going to buy another 25 or 30 here. So the total of all of this, I need to put a stop loss for that. So now if say the price comes and bounces up from here, it's great because this is where we identified the base to be. But if the price breaks this base below, for stop loss hunting, which is a very common phenomena going on in the market, then what I basically want is that my stop loss shouldn't get triggered unless the penetration is deep enough, right? And again, when a strong support level gets breached and the price continues lower, the price itself has a tendency to give a small bounce back. So what happens that if the price comes down from here, let me just increase the thickness of this. So if the price comes down from here and here at the price of 1345, as soon as the trigger happens, I want the order for 1353 to go in my order book. So when the price will experience a pullback due to experiencing this support here, I will be able to exit at a position at a better price, like it will be 8 rupees better. And even if 8 rupees don't matter a lot, in a single trade, when you use this as a practice over lots of trades, it makes a lot of difference. So see, you can't depend on a rupee amount or a paisa amount for this because different stocks trade at different price levels. So what you can do is you can put your trigger price and your actual stop loss exit price at around 0.5% different maximum, not more than that. Now yes, there is a increased risk that your order might not get executed if there is a very sharp decline in the stock, but I am honestly okay with that risk because I would rather cumulatively save those few pennies. And if this ever happens, firstly, I use alerts a lot, so I'm going to get alerted if a stop loss has come and I can instantly check whether or not it's been executed, and if not, then I can go and manually exit it. It's fine. So anyways, coming back, so right now it might not be a very good time to enter straight away with all of your capital allocation because the market is also pretty negative. So here this is why a pyramid accumulation scheme works really well, and this will also help you lower your average buy price pretty nicely. Now there is also another thing, that there is on the 15-minute chart a slight positive divergence has already started to get formed, and also on the 3 minutes chart, which is positive, but yet because of the broader market sentiment and also because the whole commodity market as the whole is not looking very strong on momentum right now, I believe that MCX can give us a good opportunity to accumulate. So I've told you about why MCX is a good idea. I've told you where your stop loss should be. I've told you how you should place your buying in the range. I've also told you how you should place your stop loss. Now I'm going to tell you about the target. So let's move on to move back to the daily time frame where we are at, and here you can see that this is the previous high that was formed, correct? So now we would expect that since MCX is in a bull trend right now, the first target will be the previous high itself. Now within this previous high, you can see that the the extreme peak that was formed was a little bit of a extension. So I'm going to optimize my target a little bit, and I'm going to bring it down to basically 1627. So from current market price, this is only 14%. So this is actually my short term target. But for the long term, what I'm going to do, I'm going to zoom out and I'm going to identify the trend line which has been acting as resistance for the major price peaks, which takes me up to a much higher level of 2200. Percentage wise, if I look at it, it's 53%, which is a pretty good target. That is almost exactly the target that we had on Zydus Life when we started out around 9 months ago. My time frame on Zydus Life was around 1 year, and as you can see, it looks like the target is going to be achieved much before that. So this was the analysis on MCX. Now, if you've enjoyed that analysis, I will request you to please put in your comments below, because it acts as a motivator and it helps me to know whether this kind of analysis, these kind of videos and sessions are helpful to you or not. If they're not helpful to you, I will obviously try to come up with something better. But if it is helpful to you and you don't respond in the comments, then you're gonna be losing out on that. You're gonna be losing out on something which you actually found useful just because you didn't acknowledge it. So now, before I move on to the analysis of ATUL, I'll take a look at the comments and give you responses. So we have Kanakraj ji. Thank you so much for joining in, Kanakraj ji, and thank you for your kind comments. All right, let's see. We have Namshika and ma'am, can you show how to find stocks with the momentum coming in swing trading? So Ms. Gupta, I use screeners, I use RSI alerts, I use levels. There are a lot of ways, and it's just that with swing trading or any kind of investing, it never happens that you just find a stock idea and you buy it and you make money, right? You find a stock idea which is basically within your set of rules. So in order to identify rules, it's really simple. There's a lot of knowledge out there. You can use moving average crossovers, you can use Bollinger Bands, you can use RSI, you can use any other momentum indicator, volume profiles, breadth. You can use so many tools. There are two problems in this. Firstly, all indicators are not going to work in all market. Okay, there's going to be certain times when your indicator is going to work fantastically. The problem with that is that we are impatient species. So when your indicator, like whatever indicator you've identified as working with your personality, you're working at your pace, or giving you the signals which you are able to read, the problem is, even if you identify that, you will not be able to, like a lot of retail traders are not able to stick with it, because there will be times when the signals produced by these indicators are going to fail, because there is no one indicator suits all market types. And then again, if you're sticking around with a lot of different indicators, what's going to happen is that you'll just be lost in translation, because you'll keep switching between these indicators and you won't be able to commit. It's like how you have a relationship with somebody, but every single day of every single hour of every single day is not very amazing and very memorable. There are good times, there are also bad times. So it's the same way with an indicator. So I would say treat indicators like a marriage. So once you commit to an indicator, stay with the indicator through the good and the bad times, and wait for the good times to come, right? Usually the good times come after the worst of the times, and the worst of the times are exactly when people dump the indicators and go out to look for something new. Not a very good strategy. And what you should do is never marry your stocks. A lot of people have a tendency to marry their stocks, in the sense that they bought the stock and they're seeing that the stock is giving them losses, and they still stay committed to the stock. No, minimize your losses, stay true to your indicators, and have a certain set of rules. Observe those rules and stick to those rules. It's extremely simple. It's just not easy to do. So I hope you found that useful, Ms. Gupta. Please indicate that in the comments. All right, so Kanakraji is saying knowledge on Dow, Elliott wave, trendline, cloning, parameters crucial. Thanks for sharing. Of course, glad you liked it. Divya, good afternoon to you too. We have Dr. Fact. He says hello to you. Gagan Nayak, hello to you. So we have someone asking about green panel industry for long term. Okay, that's a very envelope question. I don't know how to answer that. You'll have to come up to me with specific stock name. We have Mr. Arshad. He's asking about graphite. See, I know graphite caught a lot of eyeballs during, the big rally that came, but I don't see why I would recommend anyone to buy graphite for long term right now. Um, I don't think it's a good idea to buy it. I honestly I don't see any positive signatures on graphite stock. There are lots of other good stocks that you want to buy that you can buy for the long term. I would suggest you stick with them. So I hope that was useful. All right, we have a question on V8 Tech Bug. Let's see. Okay, okay, I have to ask you to give me the ticker name of this particular stock. Vabag. I don't know. Let me see. Oh, yeah. Okay, got it. Vabag. So you want to know whether it's bullish for the long term? No, I wouldn't invest my money in this stock because on the daily chart itself, there is a massive negative divergence while it is and it's formed while the stock is near an important high, and that important high is a very crucial resistance. So I personally wouldn't invest in this, and in fact, if I had money invested in this stock and I was looking at this right now, I would be selling my entire holdings because when this stock falls, I can see that it's gonna go down probably 30 to 40%. And it's not that there's anything wrong with the stock, not that I know of, but it's just the cyclicality nature of the stock and it's not looking very good. Okay, now with that, let's move on to our next stock, which is ATUL Limited. So here's the monthly chart of ATUL Limited, and the drill is exactly the same. I'm going to start with drawing trend lines to capture the direction of the trend, and then we're gonna start cloning it to meet the stock at the most important price points which it has formed since it listed in the stock market. I have been using this cloning technique for I think nearly a year, and honestly, it's been giving me crazy results, especially since especially in identifying entry and exit points. I mean, when I started using this initially, I could see that, oh my god, the stock literally went to my trend line, took support, and went back to my trend line, which was a resistance. That was like a move of 25% in 25 days. So it was really eye opening for me, and it's only after a lot of back testing that I've started relying on this methodology and stopped drawing arbitrary trend lines and arbitrary channels on charts. So within the daily time frame, we can see that there are lots of what you can call internal trend lines going on, but I think we are done for now. So now let's look at the daily oh, that was a weekly time frame. Now let's look at the daily time frame and try to identify what's going on. Now, as soon as I move to the daily time frame, I hope you can also see that there is a very, very compelling positive divergence forming right as the stock is still very close to its recent most low price, right? So this is the lowest price, and you can see that I have alerts at both levels. Now there is also a trend line here, so I'm just on the daily chart. I'm going to go back to see what this trend line touches and where it works, so I can make it a little bit more sticky. So we can see that there is this level, and this level is touching the trend line perfectly, so no adjustment. This level is also pretty much touching the trend line almost exactly again, almost exactly again. So I believe the placement of this trend line is pretty on spot. So here, since there is a little bit of space, what I'm going to do, and this space is literally just 6%, which is honestly nothing. So see, the problem is, okay, first thing, let's move back to the weekly chart, and you can see that ATUL is a beautifully super trending stock, right? From the bottom, which it formed in 2009 at 38 rupees, the stock has gone up to 176x. It's not even a joke, right? And then after forming the peak in October 21, it has fallen nearly 36%, which is a pretty significant correction here. So when the stock moves up from this downside, I would expect it to give a massive turnaround. And if you just saw what I did on the chart, I was taking a measurement of the previous corrections which have been witnessed, and here you can see that when I draw this correction, okay, let me use a more sticky price calculator. You can see this one is around 42%, this one is also around 38%, and ये वाला को तो हम रहने ही देते हैं. There is also this tiny little one. Let's take a measurement of this. This is around 30%. Where else? Okay, this one is also a correction. This is around 25%. This is around again 25%. Let's take a look at this from the bottom to top to the bottom, around 20-25%. So basically, when the stock was in the absolute heat of its uptrend, it was giving a correction of around 20-25%, and uske pehle it has given correction of around 30-40%. And the COVID correction, we are going to take that as an exception, not as an example, for obvious reasons. Now you can see the stock is already covered around 37%. तो अब हमने जैसा देखा कि 30-40% तक लेता है, अगर 40% तक का correction ये लेता है, तो it will come exactly at the trend line that we have already drawn. So what I believe is that in the stock of ATUL, this trend line is a very, very important support zone. That, combined with the fact that there is a positive divergence on the daily chart, there is a RSI range shift in the 75-minute chart. I just discussed the concept of RSI range shift in a lot of details. So if you've missed that, just rewind the video and take a look at that. The 15-minute chart is not saying a lot for us, but the 3 minutes is. So what I'm going to do in ATUL is the same thing that I showed to you in the chart of MCX. Basically, I'm going to start accumulating this in a pyramid fashion. So I've already bought first level of my entry here, and now I'm going to place a lot of GTT buy orders across along these levels roughly. All right, so you can say that they are all at a distance of around 1.5-2% from each other. Okay, so that being said, the stop loss for me would come in somewhere at the level of, like, if I draw this parallelly, this is where it comes. So starting from here, 6.421 would be where I would place my trigger price, and I would want to exit the stock at 6.460 roughly. Now that being said, what should we expect the target to be in this stock? Now, as I told you, ATUL is a very beautifully trending stock. So in order to determine how it behaves when it turns bullish, let's go back and look at the corrections. So we've already identified the trends, and we can see the first time it touched the lowest trend line, it rallied all the way to go to the toppest trend line, which was a 46x rally. But other than that, if you see, it has mostly hovered close to these 1, 2, 3, the top 3 ranges itself. So now that it has come to this particular trend line, I would expect it to go back all the way to the top trend line, because this top trend line has seen a lot of activity. Now the first target would obviously be the second top trend line, because that trend line has actually seen like a lot more activity than the first trend line, so it becomes our reliable target level. Now the for the target level, we're just going to match this high. So from the current market price, let me go a few time frames lower. There you go, that's better visibility. Now for the near term target price, therefore I would expect 37%, somewhere around 9500, right? And then in the long term holding, I would hold this stock for for the highest trend line that we can see, which is at this level of 14,220. Now why would I say, now this would be a rather conservative target on the stock. Now why would I call it a conservative target? Because as you can see, this trend line is an upward sloping trend line, right? And right now we are holding the target at where the trend line lies right now, but obviously this target is not going to be achieved today. It is going to be achieved sometime in the future, say 5, 6, 7, 8 months, or even 2 years into the future. And by the time that happens, the trend line will have moved to a much higher level, but it's very difficult to predict the time element of this movement. So that is why we are going to stick with this short term and long term target that I have shown you. So obviously in the stock ideas that I have just shown you, execution without the proper guidance of a research analyst can be very dangerous, because the stock market is extremely dynamic and market risk always exists. So if you go out and buy these stocks or execute these trades without proper ongoing guidance, you're going to be in trouble, and you're likely going to be risking your capital also. So I will strongly recommend to you that you please join this Telegram channel of mine, where I share stock ideas and updates, and also respond to queries by members. Also share my updates about, you know, what I think of the market. For instance, you'll also see that I shared some stock ideas with some members here, or responded to their queries. So if you join this Telegram channel, I think it'll be a great way for us to stay connected and interact further. I'm going to drop this link in the comment for you. Feel free to also invite your friends to join my Telegram channel and connect with me. So before we finish off this session, I'm going to quickly take a look at all your comments and see where we're going with this. So we have Jitendra ji, and he's asking if it's a good idea to invest in InfiBeam. Is it InfiBeam Avenues? Okay, InfiBeam, yeah. Because we have two stocks, right? One is called InfiBeam. Okay, so the stock is forming a base right here, and on the upside, let's see, the targets around there. Okay, so I think you can purchase the stock and stay in it for as long as this base remains intact. If it does break below that, then I would suggest you maintain a stop loss at around 12.5 rupees, which would be a slightly bigger stop loss. But you know, with the stock price trading at such a low amount, you can't really help it. But then your target on the upside also would be quite big. So I would recommend you to keep 28 as a second target. The first target would be around the level of rupees 19, which gives you a pretty good risk reward ratio of you know, roughly 5, which is quite good. So that's InfiBeam for you. Moving on, I believe we have Raghava. He's asking about IRCTC again. Let's see, IRCTC, which is bought at 572 for short time with a target of 620. So I'm gonna move to the intraday time frame. He's bought it at 572, which is a pretty good entry. for a target of 620. So I believe, so what you should do, Raghava, is that 620 is a pretty reasonable target to have. I will strongly recommend you to use a trailing stop loss right here at this level, right? So trail your stop loss all the way to 595. That way you can ensure that your position remains profitable. Okay, so with that, we have come to an end of this session. Thank you so much for giving me your time and listening to me. If you found this analysis useful, don't forget to leave your comment and like this stream. It really helps me in bringing better content to you, and it also helps this video reach more people that can find it useful. So I will see you again on Friday with the market outlook, where we will discuss the activities of this week, the chart of Nifty and Bank Nifty, the intersector analysis, and I will see you then. So thank you so much for joining in. Namaste.